Welcome to Whispers from the Hearth, a gathering place for soulful stories and sacred remembering. We are Annie and Joyce, storytellers, spiritual elders, and guides through the tender terrains of grief, transformation, and the wisdom encoded in our bones. This space holds oral traditions, rituals, and intergenerational dialogues meant to awaken the voice within you. Whether you're in a season of loss, rebirth, or quiet emergence, you're invited to sit by the fire and listen. This is more than a podcast, it's a remembering. So, Eric Luke helps people navigate end of life planning, process their mortality, and prepare for the transition we're all heading toward, whether we like it or not.
Not.
Joyce is not. She's gonna skip it. Eric
No.
Eric engages people in their final chapters. In July 2025, he took on stewardship of Monarch Mountain in Marshall, North Carolina. Later in the interview, I will invite Eric to share his vision for this land. So, welcome, Joyce and Eric. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
So truly grateful. All right, I'm going to start right in and ask you some very, very provocative questions just to see all that you carry within you, Mr. Eric. So, before we talk about death work, I'd love to start here. When you look back over your life so far, what feels most important to name about the path that shaped you in to who you are today?
Ooh, such an earthly question to such a non-earthly spirit. Um, so I would say, hmm, wow, that's a good one.
Isn't it?
Asked thousands of questions. I've been on stage and all sorts of things, and not had a question like that. I would say, it has to be my parents just allowing me the space to be, just to be. And while we had the privileges of TV and jet skis and boats and all the fun things in life, um, I was always out in nature. And that's where my family and I always chose to be, really, it seemed,
That's
was outside. And so I believe through that platform of saying, hey, Eric, explore nature. We got to travel, we got to see the seasons, being born in South Florida, but being able to travel and see snow and being able to travel and see the changes of the leaves, which I equate to death, right? In the process we go through even now, like I feel this, I'm getting ready to be reborn, spring. I'm getting ready to be reborn. My buds are starting to push out through my bark or my stem or whatever. And this is the process of life and death and how really it's just so simple. And so I would say to answer your question, yeah, it had to have been my parents knowing that um, that connection, the opportunity for experiences was vital for life and vital for that appreciation, sprinkled with a little bit of something that I came into this life with,
Mhm.
um, which I'm discovering more and more as I get older. But yeah, there's been too many coincidences to think that just in this 36 years of my life now, I've gained all I know. It's just something's fishy.
Love it. I love it. Great, great, great answer. All right. So you've lived many lives already in 36 years, a farmer, a traveler, a founder, a storyteller, and a doula. When did you first sense that your life would be one of service?
Forever, forever.
Wow.
I always remember caring and thinking, thinking about situations that I was in, even as a kid, looking at the adults around me, trying to understand maybe what they were talking about, to kind of understand, okay, what can we do to continue on with this love or continue on with this uh, these dynamics of life, even as a kid. And so, um, and then growing up, I was, all the things that a lot of girls were babysitting, and my mom would volunteer me, and mostly with people at the church. She'd be like, "Oh yeah, Eric will babysit." I think I was babysitting at 9, like 4 kids
Wow.
at 9 years old. Today, that would not happen.
No
Like,
way.
would not be okay. And I just remember like I had babies, so, yeah, forever I've known I wanted to serve. Even as a kid, like a young kid, caring for the animals I found in nature that were hurt, maybe. I found like a hurt squirrel or
Oh.
an injured bird, and I was trying to help it. I just wanted to help and provide its perfect habitat for it to be rehabbed and whatever it was. So,
Mhm.
um, and I can remember feeling pain. I think today everyone's like, "Oh, I'm an empath." It's a word that a lot of people use. And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I can use the word, but I also know what it feels like and how sometimes cripplingly painful it is to feel the pain of other people or of nature or of the world or of
Yeah.
the separation we have from one another and how siloed life has become. So my whole life has been of service. I love it. I love it. Right after this call, I'm running to go get a woman I care for into her wheelchair so she can go to a doctor's appointment. And then she'll go to her doctor's appointment with her son, who will drive her in this big, van that's very expensive. And then I'll get back to her house and I'll help her back into bed and help,
Oh,
provide all of the care that she needs. So I love it. It really lights me up. I feel um, embodied, I guess,
Perfect.
is a word that I could use when I can serve. And serving can look in so many different ways. Quality time, meals together, phone calls, resources. There's so many different ways to serve a human being or of the earth. Picking up trash, adopting a rescue animal. There's so many different ways that we can serve the earth for a better space. And one thing I heard once was before you do anything big in life, maybe you're getting a big surgery, maybe you're going to a big doctor's appointment, maybe you're giving a big presentation or you're getting ready to record a podcast that's really important to you, do one good thing for the earth. And you'll see your fortune in that space or in those hopes of, I hope this goes well, or I hope this. Do one good thing for the earth. And I look back and I've always done those good things for the earth. And so I
well,
think that's in many ways why my life has been magic and unexplainable, is because I love that. I love that idea. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm on the right path
tell
because
me,
I've been doing that. I've
like,
been
what kind of things were you do? And what is, I can't
sure.
imagine what I could do to go out and do
Picking
something.
up trash, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's,
Planting a garden, something that it helps the butterflies or yourself.
mhm.
During COVID, while I loved many aspects of it, of being at home, I was thinking about how dirty Denver, Colorado was. This is where I was
Oh,
living at the time. It's just filthy, trash
hmm.
everywhere.
Oh, no.
So yeah, and so I organized, it was outside, I organized trash pickups. And I would get a local restaurant to donate food, and I would swing by and pick it up in the parking lot, and they would donate all this food, and I would have this big city trash pickup. And it launched so many people. Thousands of people today that still do trash pickups in
Oh,
Denver.
that's
Um,
great.
and then, it was just one good thing.
Yeah,
I got some publicity for it, but that wasn't my intention. My intention
right.
was, oh, I see trash. Oh, this creek is so beautiful. They don't match. Let's get the trash out of the creek and enjoy the creek. And so little things like that. Last night I went to dinner, and I saw trash in the parking lot, and it's just these little things that you
Sure.
could do. Um, uh, even speaking to the trees. I know Annie and I sometimes talk about this and acknowledging the trees. Wow, you look so beautiful today. Or thank you, birds, for your chirps. Oh,
I,
the
I
cardinals
love
are out
that.
right now, and
Yeah.
getting involved and not so separate than what we depend on. And that, oxygen, we forget. Like we are,
Mhm.
we're together. We're in this together. We're the same as. We just have different functions sometimes. So, my life of service has came from a lot of different things, and I also think my mother was very resourceful. Growing up, when we had to make projects at school, we would use what we had, and what we had was waste, the recycling bits. People call it recycling. We had all the plasticware and whatever. So if
Sure.
we had to make I can't remember what the project was. You read a book and then you make this diorama. We would make the diorama out of our recycled bits.
Ooh.
And so, my mother, in many ways, and my father working, which allowed my mother to care for us. So it was both of them working together. I want to recognize my father too. But my mother, she was like, oh, how can we get resourceful? How can we use what we've got? And, right now, I'm using a salad container to propagate my plants. And I'm like, it's free, it's perfect.
Wonderful.
And it's just so simple. Whereas people are running to the Lowe's and the Home Depot and the gardening stores to buy these things.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be done that way. So the service really came from my parents, but I love it. I get so charged up. I get so charged up being able to support and share. Um, and I'm getting better at allowing people to serve me too. Accepting help, because there's a yin and a yang to this too, where you also have to receive too. Sometimes that's hard. It's hard.
Mhm.
So it's been beautiful. It's
Yeah, I
been
call
beautiful.
that the cycle of giving and receiving. And I'm really grateful to hear that you are balancing the receiving part. That makes
Working on
me,
it.
okay.
Working
Yeah,
on
I mean, I think that is for all
it.
of us a work in progress, though. I think it
Definitely.
it really does take, it is just much easier to give than it is to receive. So, was there a moment when you realized you were more interested in tending life than chasing success?
Hmm. Yeah, I think in order to gain the wisdom and the experience, you have to try all sorts of things. My family is very entrepreneurial. My siblings have all been on those ventures themselves, and so I think you can have both, because you first have to define success. And success to me is, I feel like the richest man alive. I'm on 11 and a half acres and 192 square feet, but I drink straight spring water that's 54 degrees year round. It just
Oh,
comes out of the earth. I have south-facing slopes, so the sun today right now is blue and beautiful, and so that's success to me. There's a few other things I want. I envision being able to care for people and all these ways that, money isn't this obstacle, because I have to work in order to get the money, in order to like put it
right.
back into the community, which I'm like, can everyone just give me the money and I'll put it back into the community? We can all agree on it. All in favor? Aye. But as far as the success part, I feel that. But, when I was younger, I think I was looking more at success, probably through the lens of money. Um, and, I do exist in a material world. And I still do to this day. There's certain things that I like that I'm like, that's kind of silly. Eric, why do you like that? And it's like, whatever, I don't know. Um, and so I think that was probably in my later 20s, in my early 30s. My 20s were still a little bit wild, or whatever, I was just exploring life and trying things out. I'm 36 now, and I feel like I never can imagine doing anything else other than continuing to push into the space of service and demanding more clarity, and opportunities within that space, period. Because
It
it's the
feels
only thing that lights me up.
you're
I don't want
right.
to live. I don't want to live if I can't serve, and get very clear about the ways I'm good at serving, and there's also so many people that want to serve. So I feel like in a lot of ways, if I can work with people in the community who are either building projects similar to mine because a lot of people do care. I'm not the only one
Mhm.
building,
Right.
similar ideas. There's a lot of people that care. How can we unite and build each other? And
Hmm.
that fills me too. But there's some things I also don't want to do at all. I'm not interested in it. And so it's like, well, what can we all do together to support one another to be able to build, which to me is the foundation of life, and it's caring for each other so that we can grow old and die well.
And feel that beautiful connectedness that we all deserve to have because
Yeah.
it's so intrinsic within us. So, how did working the land shape the way you understand life, death, and regeneration?
The seasons, being a
Mhm.
part of the seasons,
Mhm.
sitting outside when it's cold in your jacket and you're like, oh gosh, your boogers are frozen to your nose. You're sniffling weird. Everyone's looking at you. You're like, and your eyes are like just dripping. My eyes, as I was walking my dogs this morning, I'm like, I'm gonna have to like really think into why my eyes just drip with water when I go outside and it's really cold. And I think they're just trying to lubricate so they don't get frozen shut. And I'm like, huh, that's probably it. That's pretty cool. Thank you, eyes. But it's through witnessing my relationship and our relationship, which I encourage everyone to develop with nature, the seasons, caring for houseplants. Some people don't have the luxury. I was a teacher for 6 years, and my students, we were 17 miles from the mountain. Some of my students had never been to the mountains.
Oh
Whoa.
my goodness.
17. When I was a teacher in Charleston, South Carolina, we were 7 miles, less than that from the ocean. Some of my students had never been to the ocean.
Huh.
So it's accessibility. But if we can even begin with a house plant, you're caring for one thing and you see its
Correct.
needs, nutrients, water, sunlight. That's what it needs. Forecasting and observing what it needs. Oh my gosh, my leaves are all like this. What does it need? It needs water, you know? When we can begin to say, okay, how can we care for a house plant? We can begin to do that for ourselves.
Mhm.
I've got a headache. What's going on? And so through my relationship with nature, I've been able to say, okay, me too. I'm the same way. Birds migrating for the winter. I'm not going to go that extreme. I can put on a jacket and a scarf, and I don't need to go to Florida, although I'd love to for the winter, or Southern California, or wherever. There's places that and things that are in place for human beings, but as far as nature goes, it's all right there. And if you watch, nature's not in a hurry anywhere. These trees grow for decades and decades and do their thing. And then they're like, all right, kaput, I'll become part of this regenerative process. I become compost. The nutrients are broken down. And from that, newness is grown. And we can do that with our grief too. Compost our grief, break it down into what is it, grow it into something new. I'm longing for that relationship with my partner, or I really wish things were that way. Break it down. Break it down. What is it? Don't treat the symptom. Get to the root cause of what your grief is. Your grief isn't going to go away. You just have the tools. It's the same thing as nature. These things aren't going to go away. What's the resiliency that nature builds? How does it adapt? Um, and what I've seen also in nature too is the harmony, the harmonious sharing of life, the coming together of the birds, and then it's raising of the young and the separating. It's the inhalation, the exhalation. I think human beings could learn a lot more from just sitting and being in stillness with nature. Um, and we've seen these beautiful grieving practices. You can hear the chicks probably. You can hear
Oh,
these beautiful grieving practices with elephants and the whales
yeah.
and the orcas and the ways that nature sometimes cares for their dead. And it's really beautiful. And it's not so quick. It's not so quick as human beings. So I attribute everything I've learned to nature. And of course, the more modern day stuff, the more industrial stuff, funeral stuff, I've learned through human being interaction. What's embalming, what's casket burial, what's flame cremation, all these types of things I've learned with, what we are doing to industrialize that space when really it's just so simple back into the earth with a shroud into a hole and be done with it. You want to pay the money? Then go ahead. Let's find you a wonderful casket that makes you feel like a rock star or not. I've got my burial shroud right here. I dye it with the flowers from the garden that I grow. So it's all about our relationship. But I think if we
Sure.
make the time or designate, I should say, the time because the days don't get longer. It's just we have to make sure that we set aside the time to interact with nature and realize, it's just so simple. It's just so simple.
So,
And we have these seasons too. The birds, they're like, oh, in the winter, they're sitting there,
Oh
they fluff
yeah.
up, they like fluff up and they look like little chubby cutie baby fluffies. And they're just like sitting there and they're just relaxed. They're okay, cool. They're still. It's winter time. It's still. Reserve your energy. Human beings are like, all right, I got this meeting. Call me here, do this, go grocery shopping, then go here, drop off the kids, soccer practice, gym practice, call them, do this.
Oh,
And this
done
is not what
that.
life is for. Life is like, slow it down a little bit.
yeah, and
And
I had the energy worker that I go to. She was all freaked out because it got so cold here, and she had to go check out the cows on the land right next to them. And she went to them, and they're like, we're like good. We're like really good. Like we know how to deal with this and we've got this all covered and we walk around and get our little bodies heated up and we got this. So whatever you're worried about, it's not a real thing to worry about. We got this. This is
Mhm.
our usual. So it was so cute because it just really softened her worry and I just thought it was really funny. So how does nature help people remember what death actually is?
By witnessing the ease
Mm,
with which death happens in nature, it's just again and again and again and again. And that's why nature's so still. And so I think, human life is full of so much dis-ease that we should listen. We should pay
Mm-hmm.
attention to at the ease with which it happens. The leaves fall. What's needed is gravity. We get a few storms to rock the plants, shake them up a little bit, and then spring happens again. The only difference is the in between, and that's right now with you two, being able to sit on this call and be alive. We're alive right now,
mhm,
and we're never promised another moment. As I don't know if we necessarily should be. Just live and enjoy and
Mm-hmm.
do what's good and out of love. And then,
It's the bottom line. Yep.
on the next time and then watch the leaves, watch the ocean and the waves go. Um, Watch the plants grow as you do these types of things. And it's kind of like it's just like a me too. I'm like, oh, me too. It's kind of like the cows when I see them in the cold. I'm like, oh, me too. It's just like life, all right? The sun will
Uh-huh.
be up tomorrow. The buffaloes, they face the wind in the
wow.
direction it's blowing. With the blizzards and everything, the buffalo face the
Oh,
wind
really?
What's the
because
reason?
because it'll be done sooner. If they're facing it, they'll face it head on and just deal with it,
Oh, oh,
and it will
I
be done
didn't think, I
sooner.
thought maybe
Just,
it
I,
blew by them differently or
yeah,
something.
it's just addressing it head on. Address it,
Wow.
face it, face it, face it, face what it is. And then the sun will hopefully be out tomorrow, or maybe the next day or a few days after that, but it will be out again. And that's what we can say, and that's what we can think. And I think a lot of times in the death space, we use the word fear or afraid when we can replace it with the word curious. I'm curious about death. And there's almost like, it feels so much better. We can say, I'm curious about dying instead of I'm afraid to die or I don't want to die. Or, it's like, I'm curious about dying. I am. And I think
I
everyone
can
would
understand
agree.
that. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's like, we're
I think
curious
the
about
biggest
dying.
fear is that there's going to be nothingness. They don't
Mm.
realize it's a whole nother world of
Could be.
activities and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
There
And
is no death, really.
yeah, and if somebody says it's nothingness, then it would be fun to explore then what is somethingness? If it could be nothing, then what is something? And is life the something that you've always envisioned? And if it's not, then who are we kidding here? But I would say, yeah, it's been the ease in nature, learning about death, and my perspective of death and continuing my learning about it. I'm always learning about it and witnessing it through the folks who are dying, and able to kind of talk about it. And a little bit of my remembering too, as you mentioned in the opening here. This is a little bit of the remembering too, reminding and remembering, and we do that with each other and with ourselves. But yeah, it's been through the nature, the birds, the chickens, watching an egg hatch. I mean,
Oh,
Unreal. It
It's
is
Oh,
a
amazing.
butterfly. It's like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon. These things are, they should be more talked about. Or a bear going into hibernation and giving birth
Yeah.
while they're in hibernation. These things are, the miracles are all around. And it's a remembering of that too. These birds flying to thousands of miles. People can't even walk a quarter of a mile without getting exhausted. And these birds are like, see ya. It's a different season.
Keep
I
going.
didn't even have to look at my phone to know it's a different season. I can just see the sun's different and I'm out of here. We're heading to Costa Rica. You know, it's really spectacular. All of the lessons are there. All of the lessons are there. And I say, even with people, we're like a leaf. Sometime the end of our leaves they brown and they crinkle and we didn't get enough water and we're like, oh God, and it starts to shrivel. Well, that leaf is going to fall off to the ground and compost for the soil that's growing us, and then we're going to spit out a new green leaf at the top. And hopefully, from that brown leaf of grief or of death, we're going to learn how to maybe approach that differently in the green leaf that's not going to brown up here at the top. And so it's just the cycle. It's like the water cycle. It's all right there. It's all the analogies, right? The analogies they say.
I have a jungle in the living room.
Oh, you do?
I
You know
have
exactly what this
tons
is
of
about.
plants, and I can't, I get a little crazy because I buy too many, and then I've got all kinds of plant stands and all that. So,
You don't need any more Christmas cactus, let me tell you. But I've got about 15 right here. And these are
oh,
legacy plants. These are my grandmother's who died in 2010.
I have
oh,
one that's about 8 years old that blooms in March,
Coming
which is
up.
supposed to do it at Christmas.
They got a mind of
It's
their
all
own.
goofed up with that just because of its association with all my other kind of plants.
Yeah.
that's it.
Some
That's
of
it.
the
Christmas.
elders that I've cared for in their 90s who move into assisted living facilities were not allowed to bring their plants.
Oh God.
And I have them right here. I have plants that over 90 and 100 years old, from
Oh,
the elders that I've cared for. Like I call them the legacy plants because, it's those that's a topic for another day about things that could be improved, but that's part of this regeneration project that we'll get to at the end, or a little bit later. But I
beautiful,
attribute everything to
beautiful.
nature. It's all there.
I have a
Love it.
couple of plants that were given to me, about 25 years ago,
Wow.
by my best friend, and she died, and I acquired more. But the thing
From
is
her.
that, yeah, and I'm just, I wouldn't have bought that particular version of this trailing thing, but I, I have to because I keep her alive,
Yes, that's part of,
Yay.
right, the
you
spirit
know,
alive part. And I'm
and
sure
I
every time
miss
you
her
see
so
it,
much.
yeah, that's
But
beautiful.
just,
I love that.
plants that I can't imagine not having life in your house that in the form of plants. It's just, yeah.
Yay. So you've held space, Eric, for countless families, and thank you for that. Thank you so, so much for that. What do you notice happens when people choose to face death together rather than avoid it?
Ease, ease in their grief journey. Not that their grief journey is non-existent, just a different path of that grief. When everyone can come together and realize that we're one and united in this, there's a different grief journey. There's a togetherness in it. And I think though we all process grief differently because we have an accumulation of stories, life stories that allow us to experience our grief one way or the other, being able to experience death together allows, it's kind of like in that nature space. It's like, oh, okay, okay, cool, not so bad. Okay, cool. It's just, all right, together. And I think that also there's a little bit of relief, ease and relief, because in those moments we begin to think of ourselves dying, I think sometimes, and who will be around when we're dying. And so I think the who's around when our loved ones are dying, what's the community look like? We have maybe a bit of relief or a sense of relief in saying, oh, I'll have that one day too. Maybe not the same people, but I'll have a community too. Um, I hear of a lot of people dying alone, and I've heard of a lot of people dying alone. And I think part of these stories and the platforms that you two create are allowing people to talk about it
Mhm.
and listen to it so that maybe one less person dies alone. And the first time I sat with a family, and my work has been in medical aid in dying, a lot of medical aid in dying, so we know exactly when the person's going to die because they're drinking their lethal cocktail. It's been really beautiful when we're together. I would say 100% of my experiences were peaceful. The person dying was a peaceful death. And the families, of course, it was hard, but there was just this sense of peace because everyone was together. You felt like you had a team. Whether or not you needed to rely on somebody in those moments, you could. And so I think of myself, like in my family, as we move forward as my parents age, and I'm thinking, there'll be a team. Whether or not I'll need them is a different story, but I know that there will be people there that I could rely on if there's something I needed to process. But I'm around it so much, and I'm like, thank God, truly, thank God that I get to be with death so much because I think I'm well equipped.
I think so
think,
too.
I think I'm well equipped to support. I think about it all the time. I think about my parents dying. I told them the other day, I think they're like, I tell my mom, I'm like, are you ever like, who did I give birth to? I'm very different than my siblings. There's four of us, and we're all from the same mom and dad. And I'm like, are you ever like, because I'm just very different. Um, but the other day I call and share stories that excite me about the spring and, oh, this is budding up, or I started this from seed. I got a bunch of lavender that I started from seed. And so I'm excited. And so we were FaceTiming the other day and I said, one day when you both are dead, I'm going to be really sad I have no one to call anymore. And they were like, and I was like, anyways, so yeah, the lavender's growing and because I just wanted to recognize it because I want to tell them that while they're alive that this is something I really cherish is being able to story tell with my parents while they're alive because what I hear so much is I wish I would have done that sooner.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, you wish you would have told mom sooner. Well, she's dead now, Now we're standing over her dead body. It's like, God, we got to say the things. And, I think there certainly is discernment and discretion in conversations and what we do say. But, it's those little things. I'm sure they thought about it after we hung up and they were like, wow, how kind is Eric? And
Or
what if,
or or they didn't. Sometimes they don't. Well, one of the things I want to
yeah,
share is because we're getting to work together because my husband is going to be transitioning at some point. And the what I would reflect on with the work that you've offered in the celebration of life ceremony, especially, is I've witnessed a domino magic. So it's like it literally opened the hearts and minds and processing of everybody that was with us that for that celebration of life ceremony and dinner and everything. And I'm really getting to see the tendrils of its tree go out in so many different directions because it's garnered a lot of really, really prolific conversations with everybody that they touch. And two of the people are very extroverted. So it's really neat to see that it is like what we've discussed with the regeneration and the nature, where it plants the seed that is just absolutely, it's not even, you can't even
bingo.
measure it, you can't even qualify it because it's just got its own life and it's so beautiful. And I, in this, what I would call somewhat rough journey, it's just also there's so much sweetness and beauty that we've gotten to witness as a result of what you brought to the table and the gratitude continuously of the people that got to be a part of this celebration and all come back and say the same thing. We are so grateful that you introduced Eric to this process because it made it so much better and different. So with that, so okay, so what do people often wait too long to say?
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, I would say I'm sorry. Too long to say I'm sorry. And for whatever reason, but yeah, I'm sorry.
Hmm. Yeah, and they sometimes don't even realize it's in there. They've got
Hmm.
it so armored and so blockaded that, yeah, yeah, that succinct and to the point. So you make a point of including children in end of life spaces. Why does that matter so much to you? And what do children seem to understand about death that adults often forget?
Children seem to understand everything about life that adults forget, and we spend our adults' life trying to remember everything that we've forgotten. And so, you know, the kids get it, and then we seed them with all these new ideas about what death is and what about all these things are, but children should be taught about death and grief well before math and reading, because they're not going to necessarily have jobs that require math and reading, especially as we progress with all this technology and we see all
Yeah.
sorts of things. I was a teacher for 6 years, and what I do know is every child will be exposed to death. 6 million kids are made privy to bereavement and bereavement spaces because of their experience through death by the time they're age of 18. That's with the death of a sibling or a parent, 6 million kids.
Wow.
And let's face it, most of us eat meat, and that's death. And also, I believe part of life in our growth and learning new things is death. And so I believe if we can talk to kids about death and we expose them to death, we can have parts of us die while we're still alive, and continue to do the things that we need to do here. That no longer serves me. That can be released. That no longer can serve me. But also, my sibling died, or mom died, or grandma died, or Uncle
Hmm.
Ned died, or whatever it may be. And I think we'll waste less, when we realize this is a dead cow. We may even eat less meat. I don't need to get into the opinions on meat eaters, but I think we'd eat less if we realized the reverence of life,
Hmm.
and death in that we were exposed to from the time we were a child. But instead, we're not. These over-processed foods are slapped on our plates, and we're just told that we need to eat by bedtime, or we need to hurry up, or whatever it is. We have no ceremony around even food. And so what I do know is kids are sponges, and they're curious, and they're not afraid. I remember at my farm in Colorado, we were running around and playing, and my nephew looked at me and he said, "Uncle Eric, what if I fell and hit my head and my brains came out?" I said, "You would die." And my sister-in-law was like, "Oh my gosh." And I was thinking, it is the truth. He didn't even flinch and went back to
Yeah.
playing.
Uh,
Because he was like, "Oh yeah," and it's almost like he was checking me, like, "Eric, you understand? Life is precious," And he was like checking me, I thought for a moment, and so I think, what's there to lose in teaching a child about the sacredness of life and our organs and blood and the way our bodies move and how sacred our bodies are? It
Oh,
sounds
yeah.
to me like the direct opposite of fear. It sounds like empowerment.
Hmm.
It sounds like love and compassion
Hmm.
and understanding, especially when we see bodies who may be differently abled than ours when we're out in public, if people are even out in public. And we can understand from a young child through the lens of death and living, and through the lens of what does disease look like? A lot of these people aren't out in public because the spaces aren't accessible. And so I believe that with our children and talking about these things and exposing them to death, and then it goes into how do we do that? Not the time for that today, but I have resources for that. But there's ways to do it.
Hmm.
Start with the hot dog. Start with the hamburger. Start with the chicken sandwich and the chicken nuggets. And it may be really interesting at first. You'll be able to move through it. Maybe you're going to have to buy some new foods for a bit because your kid's going to refuse to eat a chicken. That sounds like empowerment
Hmm.
through informed consent.
Exactly.
And so I think when we do that with our children, I imagine euphoria, utopia, whatever it is. I imagine bliss because everyone's able to make these decisions through that lens and through the sacredness of life and death. You
and
know,
and the greatness of their processing and thought process that'll occur as a result of all those things. Because in talking to my daughter, like not that many years ago, I was astounded to hear all the thoughts that were going through her head that she never shared with me. No, none of the questions, and I'm like, man, you had some deep, deep processing going on that uh, you never even brought up. And wow, we missed out, that you didn't feel safe enough to even be stating it. Wow. So when you look at how denial actually costs us, how might our lives change if we normalize these conversations earlier, long before crisis?
we'll feel more ease. That's the word I'm going to
Mhm.
use a lot.
Yeah,
We'll feel so much easier. Things will be so much easier, less dis-ease
I love it. Nice and basic.
because we'll be able to just navigate these things.
Mhm. So you've witnessed people choosing courage over comfort. What does courage really look like at the end of life?
Unfortunately, we have such a lazy language that I couldn't even put it into words. And that's where we all have the ability to witness it by having and being willing to witness death for people in our community, people in our families, folks who are at these homes alone by themselves. The courage is it's jaw dropping, it's bone shaking, it's all the things of the human things, but the things that I've heard and witnessed in my life, there's no way I could get anyone to understand the gravity of what I heard because what is sound? It's a vibration into my ears, but the words that were said,
Mhm.
the goodbyes that were given, because it was a more, death for people who aren't working with medical aid and dying or dying with dignity. It's sometimes months, years, people
Mhm.
are dying. So it's unpredictable. It's a bit more predictable with medical aid and dying. And so people had to say their last words. And so the folks who are dying, they have a lot of courage.
Mhm.
It's just almost
Mhm.
impossible to embody all of what they say. So I'm on that hunt to figure out why. And I think as we continue to share stories about death and dying, and people allow us in behind the curtain to see and be a part of it, to make it less over there, then we can say, okay, I actually know how to do that now. I really want to hold a funeral for somebody, an unidentified body. I want to gather the public and hold a funeral for an unidentified body that they
Oh.
find. And I, number one, want them to see a dead body, but number two, I want us to have a celebration to see that it doesn't have to be that and what it's been. It can be this.
Mhm.
And then I got, unfortunately, into the rabbit hole of discovering all the red tape of what the states do with unidentified dead bodies, which I won't talk about
Oh
now.
dear.
But there may be some problems in being able to make that happen.
For sure,
Mhm.
especially in the location we're in. So what have you learned about silence from this work?
Silence in this work can mean two things: reverence, extreme reverence and reflection, or it could mean a um, a bubbling of emotions that maybe need to be coaxed to the top. I've seen a lot of families who are silent, or a lot of people in the public who are silent, and it's because they don't even know how to talk about this. They don't even know, they can't even say dead and died or transition. I got to get them to dead and died before I get them to the word transition because they say lost and passed away. We lost our mother. We lost our father. We lost our
Right.
son. And I'm like, well, do you want me to help find him? Should we put up flyers? What is it, dude? Oh, no, no, and they still won't even do it. And So I think silence sometimes can mean an uncomfortable or a not knowing of what words could be used
Mhm.
to talk about it. And it's okay to say died and dead.
Yeah.
Mom's dead,
Yeah,
dad's,
yeah.
and
How,
it sounds so, ugh, but that's
I was
because we never
never
talked about it
comfortable
as a
with it.
kid.
I'm not
Yeah,
comfortable yet.
yeah. Because
I
as a
avoid
kid,
it like the plague.
yeah, because
I
as a
don't go to
kid,
funerals. I don't.
could you imagine if as a kid you had, a little bit of what we talked about earlier? Maybe your experience now would be different
Mhm.
Yeah, couldn't.
because it would be something that would be a normal part of your life instead of something that's just like, oh, it
Hmm.
only happens when it's like a tragedy or it's a sign of like aging. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be that way.
Hmm.
And instead, it's like,
So how do you personally stay present without carrying what isn't yours to carry in this process, especially as an empath?
yeah, all sorts of things. Food. It could be some unhealthy things like sweets. I'm on a sweet restriction right now because I have a very inappropriate relationship with sugar.
Me too.
I would say diet is a thing, like really being present while I eat and having that and imagining it nourishing my body is really special. Um, Quality time with people, and that is through conversation and sharing a meal with people. Getting out of the house and in nature is a way that I do that as well. Getting out and planting, um, and serving, like continuing to serve. It's not an unhealthy busy. It's just that I get to serve. Being able to leave here in a few minutes and serve is just something that it allows me to keep going. It allows me to know that. Um, I'm not idle in these ways. I have the abilities to
Mhm.
bring joy and to provide literal support. So I can do that. And so uh, releasing what isn't mine is through a practice of all that. And some of that, all of that is mine too. It is life. It's situations I've made conscious choices to be involved in. And
Mhm.
so, um, and also, knowing that I'm giving people the best gift that could be given, and that's quality time at the end of life. It can just be eye gazing. It's just time and moments you'll never get back.
Mhm.
And so, knowing that, oh, I've been able to give this gift or pass it on. It's not necessarily mine to give. It's just like something that's coming through me that I'm just kind of giving out. I'm a conduit. Uh, is what allows me to keep going. It's what allows me to release what isn't mine and to move forward. Music too. I love music.
Oh, I
Uh,
love music.
love music.
So what has this work asked you to release in yourself?
What has this work asked me to release in myself? Attachment to anything, permanence. Just let it go.
Beautiful,
Let it
beautiful.
go.
What
Let it
a
go.
great education then.
Let it go.
Mhm.
Let it go over and over and over again. Let it go, Let it go.
And being in the present moment for sure. What conversations do you believe most people are postponing that deserve attention now?
How much we mean to one another.
Mhm.
Wow,
Beautiful.
that's
That gives
quite
me
The
a quick
stories,
response.
being able to call my mother and being able to say, I love being able to tell stories. I'm gonna be sad when you're dead. Like just like that. I love storytelling with her. So yeah, I think that. And I'm so quick, Joyce, because I think about it all the time. I think about death all the time. And I think about, I don't want to regret anything when I'm on
Mhm.
my way to actively dying or somebody just died in my family that's really close to me. I don't want to regret anything.
No.
And there's some things in my life right now that if, they died, I'd be like, oh God, I regret this. So I need to get on it myself, but I'm human right now.
That's a biggie that no one really thinks about not wanting to regret. I haven't given any thought to that, that I would need to know that later on or in some event, or it's a wonderful thing to contemplate. You know,
For sure. If
it
someone
is.
listening feels afraid to begin these conversations, where would you suggest they start?
I I suggest I suggest they start going within. You know, my parents aren't where I'm at with my death talk, but I know they've gotten more comfortable with talking about death because I've embodied it
Sure.
myself.
Cool.
And so, where can you start? What do you want to die well? How do you want your physical body honored when you're dead? And when you can start there and you can say it, maybe you have to start by saying it out loud in your house and you sound like a weirdo, but start talking about it with your friends, start talking about it with your family. I tell my parents all the time, you know, I have animals I'm responsible for. I'm a jewelry collector as well, and I've got some land. And so I tell them if I'm dead tonight, A, B, and C. See that purple paper right there? That is
Oh,
in the
yeah.
corner of my
Oh,
room.
yeah.
That is my will right there. It's hung up in
Oh,
my home at all
really?
times. So if I'm dead somewhere, all they have to do is come into my home and it's right there.
Perfect. I love it. I love it.
Perfect. And so how can we do this? It's by starting with ourselves,
Huh.
then going outward, starting within, going out. It's almost like that nature analogy. That seed comes up, you're coming in, and then you can bloom out. Start talking about it. Let others drink from your nectar.
So, what would you want people to remember when their hearts feel tender or afraid?
Talking about it is probably going to help.
Perfect. Perfect. I definitely want that to be.
Or art, maybe art in some way. So art or talking about it. Some people want to be silenced, but you got to move it. Move it. Move it through language or move it through creation. Creating language, creating art. So it's all through that creative lens. Talk about it, create some art, move it.
Ooh, 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 ooh. That helps to hear that. So,
Can you
listen,
imagine life without having your dogs?
No.
I mean, aren't they just
I have three.
so I remember you saying I mean, I'm a dog lover too.
Yeah.
And I like cats too, but they knock so much stuff down. That annoys
A
me.
little more messy.
But I mean, there's just something so special. I'm addicted to seeing some of these things on Instagram. I have favorites that I like to watch that are funny things that dogs do or how they react when there's a emergency and
Mm.
how helpful and they are so discerning and they know emergencies coming before others do. And they're just so wonderful and unconditional love. Just
They're
the
angels.
best.
beautiful.
But can you imagine just
Absolutely.
they're not being there and how empty this charming little villa is? But that brings in this wonderful love element.
Yay.
Right.
So, listening to you, Eric, I know we're close to closing because you have to get going. We're reminded that tending death, like tending land, is about creating the conditions for love, truth, and present to return to what matters most. Please share how people can get in touch with you. For those impressed with what Eric offers, donations are accepted. And if you have a second to share your whole vision for your land, if you have.
Ooh. Yeah, so regenerationearth.org is the best way folks could support this space. And my vision is all of life happening in a community. So, Monarch Mountain is a space where children can be born, elders can transition out of life, and then everything in between. We learned how to tend ourselves and the earth in ways that are regenerative, that will leave the space better than we found it, and it will allow people to see life happen by having the time to observe and to be. Our expenses will be brought down to really non-existent
Mhm.
existence through living in community that way. But Monarch Mountain is what we were a long, long, long time ago, and it's what I'd like to get back to. It's privacy yet togetherness all in one space. There's animals, gardens, opportunities and events to gather, and also togetherness in the transitions out of this life too. And so regenerationearth.org will be having more information about that. And you can also find ways to email me and set up time to connect on the phone or in person should it be in alignment. And thank you both for having me on today. And I'd love to chat more and maybe we'll have a round two.
Sure.
But it's lovely to be able to serve
It was a
and
delight to
and
meet
that's
you.
where I'll be out of here.
And I love your face.
Thank you. Thank you so, so much, you guys. I really appreciate both of you coming on board
Thank you,
today.
Annie.
Good luck with your day.